Okay, and further summary, wanted to show you a few things here. I don't remember if I put this in a previous video, but when I've covered this airplane, I did not cover our cutout on the bottom. These are our lightning holes. Well, I didn't cover that. And the reason is when I'm snaking in my push rods from the back side, because I'm Z-bending on this side, well, I needed to have a way to get through the support that I put in here. Let's see if I can get it up here so that you can see it. Well, I left this bottom access hole open so I can get in there with a piece of wire with a hook on it or whatever, so I could feed that wire up and into our little middle support tubes. And I think you can see them there. And that just basically keeps this rod from flexing when the airplane's in flight. Now, we'll get a little further in and maybe you can see my lighting is so bad in here. It's great for working. It's really crummy for video. But you can see my servos in there. I think you can. Here, I'm working backwards, mirror image. But there's my servos. And I've got a receiver. I'm using, again, those B8 servos with the adjustable connectors at the front on the control horn of the servo. I'm using the Spectrum AR6200. I've taken care so that my antennas are not both going in the same, because this one uses a satellite antenna. And can't really see it in there, but I got the AR6200 and its satellite, and the dipole antennas are in different directions. Now, here's our Tower Pro 240821. I'm using this is a heads-up RC prop. This is a 7/6 prop, and I'm using this kind of collet adapter. This thing is supposed to put out 20 ounces of torque at I think 14 or 14.5 amps for a pitch speed of about 60 miles an hour on a 3S battery pack. So that's should be sufficient. Incidentally, I've weighed my airplane. I came in a little heavy. I am right at, with the landing gear that I chose, and we'll talk about that in a moment, I came in at right at 17.5 ounces. Now that's a little on the heavy side for you 3D guys. Well, it's a lot heavy because normally you want a 2-to-1 thrust to weight ratio, and I told you early on with this is going to fly more like your nitro airplanes. It's not a 3D aircraft. It's not 2-to-1 thrust to weight ratio. This is a sport plane. It's going to fly aerobatics and that kind of stuff. So 20 ounces of thrust on a 16 to 17 ounce airplane, going to be fine. But that's what I've got going. Now I'm going to show you in here. I have kind of messed up. I have not yet put a mount in for my hatch. I'm just going to tape it on with some clear tape at the field today because my magnets haven't come in yet. I've got a speed controller here on the side, got it Velcro mounted, and over here I've got a patch of Velcro, and the batteries I'm using is a good old Zippy 3S 1000s. 20 to 30C, yeah, these are 1000s. So that's going to fit in there on this side, and as such, and then the wires will tuck away and so forth. So that's kind of what we've got going on there. Now I'll stop the tape. We're going to talk a little bit about the landing gear next. Okay, on our e-QSC airplanes, normally I would not fly with landing gear. I'd normally just not put it on. On this one I decided to go ahead and do it because I know so many of you guys are going to want to do it. You've already thrown your airplanes. If you've always flown foamies, you've probably just hand chucked them. You still got to land them. And since this one's going to land fast, you're not going to float it by and just catch it in the air like you would with your foamies. You're going to have to land it. So I thought, yeah, let's put landing gear. Let's show it all. Again, if you're flying off of a grass strip and you're not going to put landing gear on it, don't put your servos on the bottom of the wing. Go ahead and put them on the top. They're going to impede your graphics. But when you float the airplane in and skid it in on the grass, you're not going to tear up, servos. Right now, if I did that, I would rip the servos out and it would be a mess. But you can do that, and I've done that on many, many airplanes. But back to this one, we put landing gear on it. Now, I'd shown you, I think, before in an earlier video on a high wing version of this airplane, I just bent some landing gear. And I can give you some dimensions on that later. But you're kind of up to your own. You can do whatever you want. You know, I'll give you some dimensions. Width-wise, we're about 1 inch wide. So take your piece of, music wire and whatever fits your wheels. You want it to be strong enough to hold 1 pound of weight without flexing too much. You want a little bit of flex, but you want it to be kind of light. But we're about 1 inch wide, this dimension, and I zip tie these things on, but this is about 2 3/4 inches long, and then our downward legs. What are our downward legs? Oh, about 4.5 inches, and then our axle on this particular setup, it's about 1 1/4 inches, and this one was too wide. But I would just zip tie these things onto the bottom of the high wing version. That's one way of building landing gear. Now with the low wing version, you can't really pull off landing gear like that because you still want to have your hatch. If you were to put the hatch on this side, well then you can do a wire landing gear real easy. But you need to have a hatch because that's where your battery goes. And if you try to feed it in under the wing mount in and out, it's just going to be a pain in the tail. So I went and bought myself I got this at Lowe's, but this is 1/16 inch thick aluminum. I think it came in a 6 foot length, and it's 1 inch wide, 1/16 inch thick, 6 foot long. Well, I cut this thing down, and I just kind of worked it out. I do everything by eyeball. I used a rubber mallet, and I used a vise to get my bends, to get them nice and sharp. But this dimension here is 1 inch for our axle, for us to mount the wheels and stuff in. 1 inch. This is 5 inches. This is 2 inches in the center. I did not want the reason I've got this spacer block here to sandwich it in is because my screws were too long and I didn't want to go into my battery compartment and risk the back end of a screw puncturing a battery. Another way to do that would be to, on the other side of these screws, instead of using wood screws, use like a 440 screw and a blind nut. I didn't have any of those, so I used what I had. And anyway, that's how I used the spacing. It was with a piece of 1/8 inch light ply. So anyway, 1 inch, 5 inch, 2 inch, 5 inch, 1 inch. So that's what we've got. 14 inch long strap is what I've got here. I'm using simply, I bought a Dubro screw set. These are 440 screws with aircraft style lock nuts. I used 2 of the 440 screws, 2 of the nuts on each side, and a washer. And I'm using a Hanger 9 Pro Light wheel. I think that's 1.5 inches. Anyway, that's all it takes. Now you can do this for the high wing version as well, but it makes for a nice strong landing gear, and it will flex. You want a little flex. If I bring this thing in hard and bounce it, I would have rather the gear flex and bend and skew than break the mounting plate or break the airplane. So I think that pretty well sums everything up. We've talked about landing gear. We've talked about just about everything. I'm going to take a bunch of stills and make these things available as a slideshow, as probably a separate video, so you can pause it and look more closely. But that's our e-QSC project, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me at the email address at the end of this video, and ask away. I'll answer your questions, and this, I guess, is going to end our first scratch build from Crash's Building Club. And tune in the fall, and maybe we'll do another airplane. Maybe we'll do a kit this time, and take some of the work off me. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching this. I hope it's been a little bit educational. If you've learned anything, shoot me an email. Let me know. If you hate me, shoot me an email. Let me know. If there's any other material I need to cover, shoot me an email. Thanks for watching.